How many sets should you do for best strength gains? As many sets as you can benefit and recover from. I could just end the video here because that's basically all you need to know, but don't worry, I'm not gonna blue ball you like that. I know that you came here for a clear answer of how many sets you should do to maximize strength adaptations, and while I can't give you that because strength training isn't as simple, I can give you a few pointers as to how you can find out this mysterious number for yourself. But first, let's actually define what is a set so you know what I'm talking about. A set is a collection of reps for dynamic exercises and seconds for isometric exercises. If you were to do 3 sets of 5 pull-ups, you would do 5 pull-ups without letting go of the bar, rest, and repeat 2 more times. If you were to do 3 sets of 10-second tuck planche holds, you would hold the tuck planche for 10 seconds, rest, and repeat 2 more times. But why are multiple sets even necessary? Multiple sets are necessary because in most cases, just doing 1 set is not enough volume to maximally stimulate your body, and the most straightforward way to do more volume is to simply do more sets. Okay, so is more sets always better? Not exactly. If you're doing just 1 set, then yeah, doing more sets will most likely lead to more gains. But just like with anything in life, there's such a thing as too many sets. This is because stimulus isn't the only thing that you have to be concerned with. You also have to be concerned with fatigue, and when you're doing too many sets, the amount of fatigue you generate exceeds the amount of stimulus your body receives, making your training a good way to get fatigued, not stronger. And if this continues for long enough, you can plateau, overreach, overtrain, or possibly even get injured. So doing too many sets is definitely something that you should avoid. Now that we know what a set is, let's talk about some things that you need to know before figuring out the right number of sets for you. The first is that the number of sets you should be doing is a range. It's not a mysterious number floating out in the ether that you need to hit perfectly, or you'll make no gains. If the perfect number of sets for you was 4, you will still make like 95% of those gains from 3 and 5 sets, so don't overthink it too much. The second is that this range can change, depending on how sensitive you are to training. At the beginning of a mesocycle, right after a deload, when your body is the most sensitive to training, you can just do 2 sets and maximize your gains at that time. But at the end of your mesocycle, right before a deload, when your body has been desensitized to training the most, you may need to do 3 or even 4 sets to maximize your gains. For example, this is my first week coming back from a deload, and my front delts are literally getting sore from 6 sets of pushing per workout. 3 of those are planche isometrics, and 3 of those are either shoulder presses or front raises. Since I work out every other day, that's fine. My body heals on time for the next workout. But if I did more sets or worked out more frequently, I probably wouldn't be able to heal on time and would need to decrease the number of sets that I'm doing. To be honest, I should have started with 4 sets to ease back into training and see how my body responds. Just like you can always pour more milk in a glass, you can always add more sets. But if you've poured in too much, you have to clean up the mess, which in this case would be excessive fatigue. The third is that this range can differ for different movement types. For example, I'm doing the same amount of volume of pulling and pushing right now, but my lats aren't getting sore almost at all, while my front delts are getting super sore every time. This is probably due to the fact that the front delts are a much smaller muscle than the lats, so they can't take as much beating. So I'll probably increase my pulling sets next week. By the way, for pulling right now, I'm doing front lever holds, tuck front lever raises, and pull-ups. And the fourth is that how many sets you should do per workout completely depends on your training frequency. It's obvious that if you were to work out 2 times per week, you'd be able to do more sets per workout than if you were to work out 4 times per week because you simply have more time to recover. This is also why the number of sets you're doing should be measured by how many sets you're doing per week, not per workout, since the number of workouts you perform in a week can vary a lot. Okay, now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this topic. How many sets should you do? As I said in the beginning of the video, as many sets as you can benefit and recover from. But what does that even mean? It basically means enough sets to drive strength adaptations, but not so many sets that you're not recovered for the next session. As I said, it's a range, and your goal is to always stay inside of it. Can you guess what the low end of this range is? 1 set per session per movement type is enough to drive strength adaptations. By movement type, I mean pushing, pulling, and legs.
Like calisthenics athletes train legs.
Of course, while it may be enough to drive some strength adaptations, it's nowhere close to optimal in most cases, unless the exercise is extremely fatiguing or you're working out very frequently. And even in those cases, just doing 1 set is kind of a waste of time, so let's not even bother with that. It may be enough for people who are super sensitive to training. For example, your Uncle Bill with a big old gut who hasn't seen the gym in 30 years and can barely do a kneeling push-up. But if you're watching this video, I'm guessing that you've been doing calisthenics for a while, which means that 1 set per movement most likely won't lead to the best strength adaptations. As I stated before, I'd recommend you to start with a low number of sets and increase it only when you're not getting sore almost at all and feeling like you could easily be doing more work. But what's the high end of this range? Sadly, there's no clear answer like with the low end because it completely depends on your ability to recover. The higher your ability to recover, the more sets you'll be able to benefit and recover from. For example, I can't imagine doing more than 8 heavy pushing sets in a workout, given that I work out every other day. In my last cycle, I tried doing 8 sets a couple of times and it just left me so sore that I concluded that it's simply too much for me. That's also probably because each set was very heavy. I was doing sets of 5, so if I was doing higher rep sets, maybe I wouldn't have gotten so sore, but who knows. The main sign that you're doing too many sets is that you're not recovered for your next workout. This is because if you're not feeling fresh and ready to train hard, you're not able to apply progressive overload, which is the only thing that'll make you stronger. You'll be doing something called junk volume. You won't be getting stronger, you'll just be generating fatigue for no real reason. Remember that in strength training, your goal isn't to destroy your body, it's to stimulate your body and set it up for another productive session. If you're not able to do that because you're simply doing too many sets, you're basically digging a grave for yourself. In this case, less really is more. Now let's talk about set progression, or in other words, whether you should increase the number of sets you're doing through a cycle. Overall, set progression is a good method of progression for hypertrophy training, since it's the most straightforward way to add volume, which is the most important thing for muscle growth. But for strength training, it's not so optimal simply because strength is built through an increase in load, not just volume. This means that your main method of progression when training for strength should be an increase in load, whether that be adding weight to your body, increasing the progression, or decreasing the assistance. Set progression should occur only when you can't fill up your fatigue tank with load progression alone. To illustrate this, imagine that you're doing 3 hard sets of weighted pull-ups 3 times per week. In week 1, you do 5 reps with 10 kilos. In week 2, you do 5 reps with 12.5 kilos. In week 3, you do 5 reps with 15 kilos. And in week 4, you do 5 reps with 17.5 kilos and hit RPE 10. But there's one problem. You've hit RPE 10 and physically can't lift more weight, but you don't feel that fatigued. You still feel like you can repeat your numbers for week 5. This means that load progression alone wasn't able to take you to your MRV or maximum recoverable volume, which means that you basically left gains in the tank because you didn't do enough sets. Your goal should be to hit RPE 10 and MRV at the same time, and if doing 9 sets every week isn't enough to hit your MRV after 4 weeks, you should increase the number of sets you're doing through your cycle. First week you could do 9, second week you could do 10, third week you could do 11, and fourth week you could do 12. Over the course of the cycle, this will be an increase in 6 sets. If you got nothing from what I just told you, that's fine. I'm not expecting you to understand all of this nerd shit, so I'll simplify it down for you a bit. In short, what I just told you is that set progression should occur only when increasing the reps and load isn't enough to take you to your MRV. What this means is that you're training to absolute failure to continue making progress, but you don't feel that fatigued and feel like you could do another RPE 10 week. Through a strength cycle, your RPEs or ratings of perceived exertion will rise from 7 to 10 by lower rep increases because that's how progress is made. But if after reaching RPE 10 you still feel like you could go on and do another RPE 10 week, you're not at your MRV and could have done more sets. How to know when you're at your MRV? You'll know. Trust me. That's when your body just feels beat up, you have no desire to train at all, and all you want to do is take a break from training. Another option would be to simply increase the RPEs slower and not change the number of sets. All you really need to concern yourself with is hitting MRV and RPE 10 at the same time after about 4 to 8 weeks of training. How you do that is up to you. Okay, all the nerd shit aside, let's conclude everything we just talked about so you can leave this video feeling like you learned something. Firstly, a set is a collection of reps for dynamic exercises and seconds for isometric exercises. Secondly, to maximize strength adaptations, you should do as many sets as you can benefit and recover from. This can range from anything between 1 to 8 sets per movement type per session and 10 to 20 sets per movement type per week, depending on how sensitive you are to training, movement type, and your training frequency, but you have to experiment and test this out for yourself to be sure. Listen, the most important thing I can tell you about all of this is that strength training is a trial and error process. No one can give you the perfect training plan that you'll be able to follow forever and make the best gains of your life. You have to test out different training frequencies, volumes, and intensities to see what works the best for you. You have to treat your training like a science experiment, and once you've found something that works really well, stick to it. That's actually where the fun of this comes from, because there are no right answers. Everyone's body is different, so you have to get to know your body by experimenting. And while of course, people like me online can give you some pointers, in the end, the only one who can know how your body responds to training is you. Thirdly, if you're still sore in the next session and not able to apply progressive overload, you're most likely doing too many sets. Fourthly, the optimal number of sets for you is the one that makes you hit RPE 10 and MRV at the same time. And since RPE 10 is usually pre-planned, you should adjust the number of sets so that you hit MRV in your RPE 10 week. In most cases, this should be done after 4 to 8 weeks of training, after which you should take a deload. And fifthly, set progression should be used only when load and rep progressions alone aren't able to take you to your MRV when hitting RPE 10. And the last thing I'll say is that if you're a beginner, don't worry too much about RPEs, MRVs, deloads, mesocycles, and everything of that nature. As I like to call it, this is just some sciencey nerd shit for intermediates and advanced athletes who absolutely have to start learning about training programming to continue making gains. All beginners need to do is just show up, train hard, recover, and repeat. I guess I just don't want anyone who wants to start calisthenics to look at my videos and think that it's too complicated, because it's not. It only gets complicated as you become more advanced. But then you actually enjoy learning about all of this because you're so invested in your calisthenics progress. To be honest, I actually wouldn't even call myself an intermediate. I think advanced beginner suits me more because I'm still struggling with the advanced stick front lever and planche. I guess I just enjoy learning about these advanced concepts, applying them to my training, seeing the their results and creating content about them so that you can do the same. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and comment down below what kind of videos you would like to see from me more. You can also check the description for the best 9 bodyweight exercises for beginners and my Instagram, where I post my daily workouts and lifestyle in general. And have an awesome day. Peace!